Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as our fall continues. Great time of year, isn't it? Wonderful time of year. The temperatures are cooler. The leaves continue to change, even some of them dropping. That can be good news for hunters, right? If you are an upland bird hunter, a squirrel hunter, a deer hunter, as much as we love to see those beautiful fall colors, when the leaves drop, boy, the woods just open right up. It's a whole different situation, isn't it? Now, I don't want the leaves to drop right away. Don't get me wrong. I love the fall colors. Interesting this fall, though, and I think this is of a note for deer hunters, the corn is coming down this year early. I mean, there are a lot of years where we still have standing corn for the firearm season opener, middle of November. At the rate they're going in my part of the state, I don't think there will be any standing corn by November 1st. So good for them and good for deer hunters. Because if you get a bunch of standing corn, the deer, they love it, right? They can bed there, they can feed there, they can hide there, and it can be hard to get deer out of standing corn. Statistically and traditionally, the deer harvest numbers tend to be a little better, at least, in the southern part of the state where we have cornfields as a factor. The firearm season harvest is better in years where there isn't much standing corn, so maybe look forward to that. I have been taking advantage of this fall. I've been out a couple of times bow hunting. My bow hunting is probably not like your bow hunting in that when I go out there, I'm not looking for or expecting to shoot a buck. I'm doe hunting. Why is that? Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say if a respectable buck walked in front of me and gave me a shot, I wouldn't shoot it, because I would. But I'm being realistic here in my expectations. The property that we hunt has a fair number of 1.5-year-old bucks on it and a couple of 2.5-year-old bucks on it. And if one of those 2.5-year-olds gives me a shot, I would probably take it. But I don't expect that's going to happen. So I'm not buck hunting. I don't have my hit list. I don't have target bucks. I didn't name the bucks. I don't have sheds from previous years. I don't have trail camera pictures of them. None of that kind of stuff. But I have succumbed somewhat to the modern day world of deer hunting because we are hunting property that we leased, and I'm hunting over food plots that we put in. And by we, I mean my son James. I was doing other things, so he went out and put the food plots in. But I'm hunting those plots looking for a big doe. I'm hunting with a crossbow. Oh, I know. Satan's tool, the crossbow, yep. If I was a real hunter, I'd use a recurve. If I was a real hunter, I'd go out there and cut down my own saplings, and I would twist the strings out of sinew, and I would form my broadheads from stones I found on the side of the creek. That's how I'd hunt, right? But I guess I'm not, so I'm using a crossbow. And again, looking for a big doe. I am hunting out of a ground blind. I don't hunt much out of tree stands these days. When I am in a tree stand, it is going to be a ladder stand. I just feel more comfortable, more confident in a ladder stand. We have 4 food plots on this property, and all of them are getting some decent action in daytime right now. The one that's getting the most action is about 150 yards from where I sat last time. I would like to get over to that food plot when the wind direction is right, but the only thing we have on that food plot is a hanging stand. I wish we had a ladder stand in there. I wish we had a ground blind in there. That's what I would prefer to hunt out of. One of those, either the Wraith 270 see-through ground blind from Primal, I love those, or the new Harvester blind, which I haven't been able to hunt out of yet. But at this point, that food plot is getting a lot of daytime activity, and by daytime I mean, before dark, just before dark, but still plenty of shooting light. And we are reluctant to get in there right now and try to slip a ground blind in there and screw the whole thing up, because we haven't quite figured out the deer movement there. We think we know where they're bedding. They're coming right to that food plot, and to slip a ground blind in there would change things. We don't want to do it. So my last hunt out there, it was a nice cold night. It just felt like the deer were going to be moving. And I will say we are using trail cameras too. We are keeping an eye on things. So we're using leased property over food plots using trail cameras. So see, I have bought into the concept somewhat of modern day deer hunting. I haven't, I'm going to take advantage of the tools that are available. So I'm sitting on this food plot, and I can see from watching, and again, technology in the outdoors, right? You can love it or not, but I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm looking at pictures of an adjacent food plot on my cell phone and seeing that there are deer in that other food plot. But there are no deer in the food plot that I'm sitting on. Just before dark. I mean, it's pretty dark. If a deer walked into the food plot, I would be able to see it and maybe get a shot, but it's getting dark. I hear one deer come moving through to the south of me. Don't know what it was, never saw it, didn't come into the food plot, never got a look at it. I hear a deer coming up out of the swamp to the west of me, to the left of me, and he's slowly crunching. He's coming to the food plot. I have no doubt he or she, probably a she, is coming into the food plot, maybe in time to give me a shot. Crunch, 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 stop. I think, okay, she. In my mind, I'm picturing a big doe there waiting to walk out and give me a shot. Then I hear her turn around and go crunch, crunch, crunch back the other way. She didn't blow. She didn't snort. She didn't take off. I suspect the wind was in my favor. I suspect what happened was she got up to the edge there and she saw that ground blind, which had only been out there for a few days. And she said, I don't like the looks of that. I'm going to turn around and go back to where I feel more safe. And that's one of the problems with ground blinds and deer. I love hunting from the ground. It's safe, it's comfortable, it hides you from the elements, and it hides your movements. But deer take a while to get used to a ground blind. You can go turkey hunting with a pop-up blind. You can put it in the middle of an open field, put a decoy in front of you at 9 o'clock in the morning, and at 10 o'clock in the morning you can take a bird. Turkeys are not ground blind shy at all. Bears really aren't either. I've taken a lot of bears where you put the blind up in the morning and take a bear over it, kill a bear over that same night. Bears don't care about blinds. They're curious, and they might come over and tear them up or knock them down, hopefully not when you're in it. But they're not afraid of blinds. Whitetails, you get a big old whitetail, matriarchal whitetail doe, and the first time she sees a blind, she's going to turn herself inside out running away from it. So that's why we got to be a little bit careful. I'm actually, tomorrow night when I go back out, I'm going to move that blind just a little bit. Hopefully not enough to screw things up, but I'm going to move it just a little bit. And they've been cutting out there. So we've got a bunch of big white pine limbs that are down. I'm going to see if I can't brush that in, hide that thing, almost make it disappear, move it about 20 yards to the north, and just give me a little bit better angle on what I think is going to happen there. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, my goal for this season is to shoot a big, shoot a nice Michigan doe, right? That if I do that, I will have taken a turkey during the springtime season. I will have taken a bear during bear season, and I will take a deer during deer season. that should give us plenty of wild game to enjoy and a lot of great memories from the field as well. What else? I've been seeing a lot of pictures of big bucks. Just because I'm not buck hunting doesn't mean you can't be, and a lot of people are, and I'm seeing pictures of big Michigan white-tailed bucks. I'd love to see them, love to post them. Send them to me in an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. If there is a kid in the picture, I will put the hashtag on there, Forward Fuels Tradition, and each month we will draw a winner from those posts, and you'll get a $50 gift card to the Forward convenience stores. How cool is that? My bear meat is at Michigan brand right now. We're doing 75% burger, 25% brats. So looking forward to that. Coming up on this week's show here after the break, I'm going to talk with Don Barnard. He's a friend of mine. He's a retired DNR Fisheries Biologist. I want to talk about fall musky fishing and more. Then Tom Weston from the Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger program. How can you donate your wild game to someone in need? In hour number 2, Nick Green. Nick used to be with MUCC. Now he's working with the Nimrod Society at Hillsdale College, and they are fighting for the future of hunting and fishing in this state. I want to talk with him about that. Some interesting comments from Nick. Adam Bump from the DNR, previewing the Michigan pheasant season coming up very soon. This week's Ask Avery question deals with the outbreak of EHD in Michigan. How bad is it? Chad Stewart will answer that question. And in our third hour, more pheasant hunting, deer hunting, bear hunting, and more with Tom Lounsbury, and we will wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's all coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WZTK in Alpena. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux, WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Versa Skins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of, expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set that is warm, wind resistant, water resistant, and then snap on and zip on an outer camo pattern. You can change your pattern, change your skin for the season you're in, from blaze orange to snow camo or whatever. You snap on and zip on an outer shell, and it takes less than a minute to do so. If you are in need of big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, Versa Skins can help you out there. And if you are a saddle hunter, Versa Skins makes products specifically for saddle hunters. You can find them online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. They're also on Amazon. Do a search on Amazon for Versa Skins brand. Interestingly enough, I got an email from a guy last week. He said, "Hey, Mike," he said, "I heard you talking with John Eberhard about saddle hunting." He said, "It opened my eyes because when I used to hear you talk about Versa Skins and saddle hunting," he said, "I envisioned guys on horseback." And he said, "I thought that's a really small niche market to develop a product for." And I thought, you know what, that does make a lot of sense. So I'm glad we got that all figured out. My grandson, Trent, T-Man as I call him, was fishing a mid-Michigan river here just a couple of weeks ago, kayak fishing with a buddy of his. And they caught a really nice muskie. Let it go. But I thought that was really cool to get what I thought was a bonus catch. They weren't looking for muskies. You can go out and target muskies and not have to go to Lake St. Clair to do it. If you are going to target those big fish, this is a great time of year to do that. My buddy Don Barnard has spent a lot of time doing that. He's a retired DNR Fisheries Technician, and he's also a hardcore hunter and an angler. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk about this and more. Don, welcome back. How are you?
I'm fine, Mike. How are you doing today?
Good. Listen, I understand we catch you, as we often do this time of year, out west doing some hunting. Where are you, Don?
I'm in northern part of North Dakota this week. We come out here every year This year we tried to do things different. We came through Ontario and Manitoba to get to North Dakota, so we kind of took the long way.
Why?
But,
Why?
well, we wanted to go along the North Shore.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to go through White River so we can get an A&W in White River.
There you go.
And my wife's a geologist, so she wanted to pick up some rocks. I did a little grouse hunting in Ontario. I had an interesting experience with that. I was going down a trail, and I came around, and there's a moose about 30 yards away. So that was an
aren't they
interesting
something?
experience.
When you see those, it's amazing how big they are.
It's well, I compare it to a billboard in the middle of the woods. Yeah, it was absolutely huge. And then I was instead of taking pictures, I was more concerned about my dog. My dog never knew it was there, but so long story short, I didn't get any pictures of the moose, but it was pretty exciting coming around a corner and seeing a big moose in a swamp right there.
Yeah, and I know what you mean. That drive along the north shore of Lake Superior is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of scenery, and we wanted to try it, and I'm glad we did. It was a new experience for us, and my wife is happy because she got all kinds of rocks. So that's, I guess, if you can keep them happy, you're doing good.
Life is good. So you're
Right.
so you're in northern North Dakota. Are you pheasant hunting or grouse hunting or quail or what?
Well, the pheasant opener is this coming Saturday. In the meantime, sharp-tailed grouse and Hungarian partridge are open. I did a little bit of hunting for them. We went coyote hunting last night. We had a beautiful setup, but no coyotes showed up. So they have a lot of beautiful coyotes out here, and but unfortunately they weren't where we were. So but we had a beautiful night. We saw about 30, 40 pheasants on the way home, and that only gets us more excited for this coming Saturday.
Oh yeah, pheasant hunting out there is a whole different experience. Do you hunt sharp tails and Huns different than we do our grouse back here in Michigan?
Oh yeah. The sharp-tails the sharp-tails love sunflowers. There's no sharp sunflowers where we're at right here, but they're in the more open fields. And same with the Hungarian partridge, are in more open fields. You can sometimes get all three together, but most of the time they're a little different habitat where the sharp-tails will be in a little bit more open cover than the pheasants. Pheasants are usually in the fence rows, and we're assuming right now that there's still a lot of corn up. So we're assuming the pheasants are all going to be in the corn this weekend. So that's going to make it a little tough, but I'm sure we'll be able to put up a few birds.
Oh, I bet you will. It's interesting. There's a lot of corn still standing out there because, as you probably saw here in Michigan before you left, the farmers are taking down the corn around here left and right.
Right, and it's dry enough here for them to start doing it. They're working on soybeans right now. Wheat's a big crop up here, and the wheat's pretty much harvested. Right now they're working on soybeans, and they're starting on the corn, but there's still a lot of cover for those pheasants to run around in. So that always makes it challenging.
I was in North Dakota one time hunting birds with the Poet family from Jay's, and what an experience that was. I mean, you'd see at the end of a piece of crops, end of a small field, like 100 birds go up, and you think, oh my gosh, that's we're done, because that's all the birds in the county right there. And then you find out that's just a small percentage of what was out there. How are the numbers out there these days, Don?
Everything that North Dakota, all their game and fish says that everything is up this year. They had a really good spring, and they predict that all bird numbers are up. So, and like I say, we saw, just driving down the roads last night in the evening, we probably saw 30, 40 birds. No, we had one flock in front of us. There was 25 birds for sure. So yeah, but they're still pheasants, and they still learn how to run, and they still learn how to flush out of range. So
do the birds out west, do they cackle, the roosters, when they take off like our Michigan birds used to?
My experience is they all cackle. They all cackle when they go up. They're all excited. Here, there, I've always heard them cackling. And a lot of times you can sit in the evening and just listening to them, as it's like whenever they fly to a roost, they have to cackle. It's which is good and bad, because sometimes you'll flush a bird, and if the light's not right, you'll yell hen, and then it starts cackling, and you go, well, I guess that wasn't a hen.
Oh, it sounds like a lot of fun. You guys are going to have a great time out there, and then by the time you turn around and come home, it'll be getting close to start thinking about some fall musky fishing, won't it?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely thinking of it. Unfortunately, as you know, I lost my lakes, so I have to travel a little bit for musky fishing. But yeah, I've got some plans, and I got some ideas, so I'll just have to fill the truck up and head over to some key spots I got in mind.
I sent you that picture of my grandson Trent, and I told you where that fish was caught. Was that a surprise to you, Don, or is that no big deal?
Well, it's always a surprise to catch a muskie, but and even before we lost the dams on Sanford and Wixom, we were having muskies go over those dams and working their way down to that location. So now that the dams are gone, they've got a lot more. But it's a really pleasant surprise. He might not have been targeting muskies, and the way it goes, a lot of times that's often the case. You're not targeting a muskie, and all of a sudden one comes along and grabs your small spoon for smallmouth. Or I had a friend of mine, his mother caught a 50-incher on Brevard Lake in the UP crawling, using crawler harnesses for walleyes. So it's always a beautiful surprise, and you can get a wonderful picture and a fantastic memory.
50 inches, is that kind of the holy grail?
I think so. That is for me. 50-inch muskie is a beautiful fish. That's right around when they're close to 30 pounds at 50 inches, but the way muskie anglers are, almost all muskie anglers are releasing their fish, just like your grandson just released his fish. They get a picture and they get a fantastic memory, and muskies are somewhat hardy. They can. There's been muskies that have been released numerous times, and that's the way we get 50 inchers is because people release the 40 inchers.
Well, so. and is part of it because muskies just don't taste good? If they tasted like a walleye or perch, would people be taking them? Or is there just a culture in the muskie fishing community that says, let's let them go? Actually,
many years ago when I brought a muskie home from Lake St. Clair, my mother thought it was the best eating fish she had ever had. And we had been eating walleye regularly, but they're just, the nature of the beast is they're just not numerous. And nowadays we're blessed with many, many walleyes to eat and just eat walleyes. They can take care of themselves. Muskies have always had a trouble. Muskies are always reproductive challenged, and it's hard to get into it here, but it's always been a challenge for muskies to make more muskies.
All right, real quick, I got to go to a break, so I'm not looking for a long, in-depth answer, but could there be a self-sustaining population of muskies in Michigan from Mother Nature, or does man have to get involved these days?
Well, that's a long. There's many places we have to get involved, and there's many places they're self-sustaining. So we can get into that, but Lake St. Clair, obviously, they're self-sustaining.
But that's a whole different world, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, yeah, totally. The conditions are just right for numerous muskies, and it's you've got all that water flow, and you've got an unbelievable forage base, and the conditions are right, and that's where we are going. We annually go down there to harvest
all right, well, hang tight, Don. We got to take a break. As I told you, we're talking with Don Barnard, a good friend of mine, retired DNR Fisheries Technician and a hardcore hunter and angler. Talking with him about fall muskie fishing and more. And we will continue that conversation after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Tawas, WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. Twice each weekend, in fact. And you can hear us in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. Look, I know that you're probably not putting in food plots right now, but you're maybe a good chance you're hunting over food plots. So keep Killer Food Plots in mind next season when it's time to put them in the ground. And don't forget that Killer Food Plots also has a line of scents and attractants as well. Check them out online at killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Right now, though, talking a little fall fishing with my buddy Don Barnard, in particular fall musky fishing. Don, what are you looking for in the fall? Is it like most other types of fishing, you're looking for the water temp to drop? Is there a certain degree that you like?
55 degrees is like a key temperature range. A lot of the inland lakes, we have fall turnover, which is really tough fishing around. That's when the water temperature kind of inverses and the lake has stratified for temperature columns, and fishing during that period is tough. Once the lakes turn over and you hit that 55 degree water temperature, you're good to go. The fish seem to be more active for some reason, or for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but 55 and then you can fish right up to ice up.
What about the UP? I mean, before Lake St. Clair came on the scene as just a world-class fishery, it used to be if you wanted to catch a muskie in Michigan, you probably went to the UP to some remote lake up there. Is that still a good fishery?
Oh, yeah. I was actually fishing the UP this summer, and it's still a good fishery. I fished a body of water for several days, and I had 15 follows from some beautiful fish. My therapist says I'm doing a lot better now, but
well, let's talk about this, because I'm glad you make light of it, because I was going to say, look, only a muskie fisherman can get excited about having 15 almost bites.
Right, and it's depending on the mood of the fish, you can sometimes turn those follows into biters. Sometimes they just want to follow and drive you crazy, which is what the case was with me. But you still have a location, and there's several times you can come back through, and you can you'll either get another follow, or you'll get them to be a little bit more active. You know, that changes with all the variety that there is with everything else, water temperature and barometric pressure and where the sun is and where the wind is and all that. But yeah, it's a big part of muskie fishing is you have to be ready to watch for a follow. And if not, for whether you can catch them or not, or just for the location. So.
And again, it used to be, I always thought that muskie fishing was, like the fish of 10,000 casts. These days, trolling, Lake St. Clair, primarily a trolling fishery. Where do you come in on this, Don?
Well, trolling is a great way to catch fish, especially, when you look at Lake St. Clair looks small compared to the other Great Lakes, but it's a good lake, and you've got 800 square miles there. So sometimes you just got to cover water, and it's a great tool. Now, just personally, it doesn't give you the strike and the feel of a fish that, follows and like that casting does. But I'm never going to poo-poo trolling, because it's a great way to locate fish, and in many ways it's a great way to get your picture taken with a muskie. So it's a good way to cover water, and it's an important tool you should carry in your muskie box.
When you go down to Lake St. Clair, will you be trolling or casting?
No, I'll be casting some more. I'll be casting in one of the rivers that come into Lake St. Clair, and I'm looking forward to it this year. The DNR has a new access site, so I don't have to cross Lake St. Clair to get to my fishing spot. But I'll be casting, and there's a couple locations, especially late in the fall, that we can go and cast for muskies. So I'm looking forward to that.
And again, the later into the season, the more the water temps drop, you like that 55, it's just going to get nothing but better right until ice up.
Right up until ice up. And if there are days, I have to take ice off my guides, but the fish are worth it. And that's what keeps you going. The pictures, the memories. Otherwise, casting those 2-3 ounce baits can get awfully tiresome.
Well, I always knew you musky guys were a little bit crazy, but I always thought you were a little crazy anyway. So that just it adds to the whole picture.
I wouldn't stop at a little bit. I would go a little further than that.
Well, listen,
it's not the most productive fishing, but it sure is rewarding.
Hey, listen, anybody who's crazy about the outdoors like you are, I have much respect for. So good luck in your trip there out west. I will look forward to seeing some pictures, and I'll also look forward to seeing a picture of you, Don, with a 54-inch Lake St. Clair muskie with the sunrise in your face. So when you take that picture, send it to me and think of me.
I'll think of you, and I'll say, why aren't you out here with us?
All right, Don, good luck. Have fun. I always appreciate your time. Don Barnard talking about fall muskie fishing and more as he's in North Dakota doing some bird hunting. He's an all-around outdoor guy. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Tom Weston talking about the Sportsmen Against Hunger program and how you can donate your wild game to somebody who needs some help this fall. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the company that makes this sound. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. I just took it out of my pocket. I would strongly encourage you, if you get a chance, to stop by their showroom on US 2, just east of Rapid River. If you can't make it there, go to the new website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. You can use their promo code Avery10 either online or in the store. Save 10% off. I'm not going to talk about the end of the year or that big giving season that's coming up. But don't wait till the last minute, and a knife is a great gift for any reason. Go to the website, get in on their new Stormy Cromer Rapid River project. Get one of those knives, very cool, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Okay, as you are in the woods this fall, deer hunting, I'm talking about primarily, why are we out there? We're out there to have some fun. We're out there to relax. We're out there to control the population. We're out there to put some venison down. If you like to hunt but maybe don't like venison, or if you're having a good season or will have a good season, you end up with more venison than you can eat, wouldn't it be nice to know that this could all go to a good cause for people who need a little help? Tom Weston is with the Sportsmen Against Hunger program with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk more about this. Tom, welcome back. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Tell me about this program, Tom. I think it's a win-win all the way around, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a program that's been around for, almost 13 years. We're legislatively mandated to accept donations when a customer buys a license. We use that money, those donations, to pay deer processors to accept deer from hunters. That deer is ground into venison, and that deer is directly donated to Michigan food banks. And the one thing I want folks to remember, I mean, really in Michigan, 1 in 7 children are food insecure in the state. So we've got a real hunger problem within the state, and our venison donation program is trying to address that. And we really rely on hunters to donate those deer.
So how do we as hunters do that? What's the process, Tom?
So the process is pretty straightforward. If a hunter just Googles DNR venison donation, they'll come up to our website, and they'll see right now we've got 11 processors, mostly in southern Michigan, that will accept that deer at no cost to the hunter. They'll process that deer into ground venison, and then we reimburse that processor $3 a pound. Over the years, this program has solely relied on donations, again, as I said earlier, from hunters when they buy a license. And what we've paid per pound is, was $1.75. It was $2 and a nickel, and we finally got it up to $3 a pound. So it's paying a fair wage to these processors. And the beauty of it is, last fiscal year, October 1st to October 1st, through hunter donations, we donated 85,000 pounds of ground venison to Michigan food banks via Feeding America. Feeding America distributes venison to roughly 2,600 food banks across the state. The thing I want you to, for your listeners to remember, is that one deer, which is on average 35 to 40 pounds of ground venison, that equates to 160 servings, wow. 160 individual servings. So last year, with 85,000 pounds donated, that's 340,000 pounds. That's 340,000 individual servings that we provided to Michiganders throughout the state. This is a very important program to the DNR. We want it to grow. We want to be able to accept more deer, but most importantly, we need those donations from hunters when they're purchasing their license. A lot of folks haven't bought their deer license yet, but just donate $1 or $2, and that helps fund the program, because we are 100% relying on donations.
When I look at these list of processors, there is one in Gladstone in the Yup, and there's one in up in West Branch too. So, you're always looking for more processors, I assume, but you've got a little bit of a reach here. I mean, you're covering the state.
Yeah. The more donations I bring in, the more processors I can sign up, and so with a large deer population in southern Michigan. We go from Carson City to Troy, Michigan, to Sandusky to Allendale. We're covering majority of the southern half of the state. We do want to bring on more processors, but I've got to have money to pay those processors a fair wage. And so that's why those donations are so important to us.
All right. So when you get your license, make that donation. And again, how do we find online? Where do we find things?
Just do a simple Google search, DNR, Michigan DNR venison donation. It'll take us right to our page.
Perfect.
It'll list off all the processors that are out there.
All right, Tom Weston, I appreciate that. Again, it's a win-win. There is no downside to this. We can help people out. It makes us look good and makes us feel good too, because we're doing a good thing. Appreciate your time, Tom. We'll talk again.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. In fact, for the top of the hour, when we come back in hour number 2, Nick Green. Remember Nick? I used to talk with Nick a lot when he was at MUCC. Well, now he's involved in another campaign that I think is very important. We'll talk to him about that. Adam Bump from the DNR about pheasant hunting in Michigan. This week's Ask Avery question about EHD, the EHD outbreak in Michigan. How big is it? Well, we'll find out that and more coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
I'd like you to meet Jared and his dad Luke. They're hiking a trail that goes deep into the woods, ending at a meadow near a bend in the river. It's a hunting and fishing spot that's been a family secret for generations. It was on this spot many years ago that Luke's dad gave him his first .22 and his first real fishing pole from Jay's Sporting Goods. They spent that day together and many after it, learning the fine points of gun safety, baiting and casting, and bringing home dinner. Today, Luke is going to pass on the same tradition. They've already been to Jay's, but Luke didn't buy just one .22 and one fishing rod. He bought 2 of each, because just a few steps ahead on the trail is Jared's twin sister, Andrea. We trust in the traditions of families and the pure Michigan outdoors. Jay's Sporting Goods, in Clare, exit 161 Mile North, and the brand new bigger Jay's in Gaylord at 1151 Otsego Avenue.
There are lots of big names in the archery business, big corporate-owned companies with big staffs and big advertising budgets. Michigan's Darton Archery isn't one of them. Darton is a small family-owned company, but their products are some of the best out there. Darton has always had a reputation for speed, shootability, and reliability, and that legacy continues. Now, Darton has brought back the Maverick, one of their most popular bows ever. But the new Maverick has an improved cam system that's so fast and smooth you'll have to shoot it to believe it. Or check out the new Demon. With an all-new riser, adjustable mods, and a draw weight up to 70 pounds, this bow is fast and quiet. The popular Ranger has seen some improvements too, now with a quad limb design to offer even more performance. The outstanding Toxin line of crossbows is also better with the addition of the new Toxin 100. That features great performance and an affordable price. Darton Archery, made in Michigan and built to hunt. Learn more at dartonarchery.com and facebook.com/dartonarchery. You know how much I love to work with family-owned, Michigan-based companies, and now I have the privilege of partnering with Michigan Brand Meats. You might know Michigan Brand as the folks who make great hams, but they also make outstanding jerky and sausage. Michigan Brand has been family-owned since 1981, and they still put the same pride into their products as 35 years ago. You can find Michigan Brand products in Meijer, Forward Convenience Stores, and Jack's Fruit Markets, or check out their online store at michiganbrand.net. That's michiganbrand.net. Michigan Brand can also process your boned-out wild game into jerky, sausage, and more. And don't forget, Michigan Brand hams are great for the holidays. Michigan Brand, family-owned and making outstanding products right here in Michigan for more than 3 decades. Online at michiganbrand.net. Again, that's michiganbrand.net. Michigan Brand, made for sportsmen, by sportsmen.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. And welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here in the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I do believe the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM station. If you can't, if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some very small part of our state, not covered by the broadcast signal of the show, the radio show, isn't it nice to know that there's a podcast version of the radio show available? Now, the content is exactly the same, but it's made available somewhere other than your local radio station. Where do you hear the podcast version of the show? Well, you can start on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I also put it each week on my Facebook page. I am very active on Facebook. We do a lot of things on Facebook. I would encourage you to find me there, Mike Avery Outdoors on Facebook. Plus, it's on all of the usual podcast outlets from Amazon, Audible, Twitter, now called X, Apple, Google, iHeart, SoundCloud, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. I even put it up on YouTube each week, and people listen to it on YouTube as well. Podcasting is a big thing these days. It is everywhere. Everybody has a podcast. I also do podcast for 3 of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, QUEST, and Primal Outdoors. So keep an ear out for those as well. I would appreciate it. I want to talk now to a guy that we used to spend a lot of time with here on the show. His name is Nick Green. I first got to know Nick when he was with the Chief Information Officer for MUCC, a group that I partner with very closely. Nick has now moved on, but his passion for the outdoors, his passion for conservation and for the preservation of our outdoor lifestyle is stronger than ever. And he's with us to talk more about that. Nick, welcome back. How have you been, buddy?
I've been awesome. Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm excited to be back on the radio and talking to your listeners.
So listen, where did you go once you left MUCC, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I stayed in the conservation nonprofit world, and I work for the Nimrod Society now. And I know that kind of is laughable at first, but we are actually a nonprofit. We are based out of Sparta, Michigan, on the west side, and the whole goal of the Nimrod Society is to help the general voting public understand the benefits that hunters and anglers provide in conservation and economically. And one of the best ways we see to do that is through the establishment of wildlife councils in the U.S. And we actually are fortunate to have a wildlife council here in Michigan, and Colorado has the other one. So it's been not a hard change for me, but it's certainly got new challenges in it, being a national group that we're working with or trying to affect change at the national level is a little different than just working in Michigan. But I can take a lot of what I learned at MUCC and kind of apply that to what's going on now.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say, this word Nimrod has an interesting connotation, because I used to think, you call somebody a Nimrod or you hear somebody called a Nimrod, that's not a positive term. But if you go back to the Bible, Nimrod is a hunter.
Yes, Nimrod is a hunter. And actually where we started to have this kind of negative connotation was the word. Some folks might remember whenever Elmer Fudd could not bag Bugs Bunny, in the old shows, at the end of it, he'd give him a kiss and say, "Sorry, Nimrod." And that was kind of where we got this kind of derogatory meaning out of it. But yeah, nonetheless, it has a biblical reference, and it really is talking about kind of the great hunter Nimrod. But our goal is to really help the general public understand all of the benefits we have, and that entails lots of things.
So are you also, this Nimrod Society, are you also tied into Hillsdale College, or does Hillsdale just also agree with what you guys agree with?
So our CEO and president, sportsman Alan Taylor, he's been around the Michigan circles for quite a long time. He actually endowed quite a sum of money to Hillsdale, and that's what started the Nimrod Education Center. So he's my boss, and that is certainly another part of what we do down at Hillsdale, and we're trying to work to get in some curriculums into some K-12 schools to help try to teach conservation principles to folks who may not actually end up ever being hunters and anglers, but nonetheless things they should know. So we do have an affiliation with them, but the work I'm really trying to do is work with states that, either have an agency who's sympathetic to the Wildlife Council cause, or legislators, or they see the value in it, and really having an organization solely focused on helping get those established. And for folks that might not know what a wildlife council is it takes depends on the state, but in Michigan it's $1 surcharge on your base license and your fishing license. That goes into a pot that equals about $1.5 million a year. And then there's a council of gubernatorial appointees that are volunteers who decide how a marketing firm will deploy that money in the best way to help the non-hunting public understand what we do as hunters. And this becomes very, very vital and crucial when we talk about ballot initiatives. Especially in Colorado right now, there's a chance that mountain lion hunting could be banned in November. It's going to be a very close vote, and wildlife councils help to make sure that those things aren't happening. They talk about the biology, the science, why we do things, how we manage things, how conservation is safe for much more than just hunting and fishing. So it's encompassing all those things and really just trying to, again, help the general public understand what we do as hunters and anglers.
But, Nick, the Michigan Wildlife Council, a group that I also support and work with them. I mean, they have their own budget. They have their own money to promote things. Why do they need help from you guys, too?
It's because it's the more the merrier. And the one thing I'll say is it hasn't been an organization solely focused on the establishment of wildlife councils. So a lot of what I do, yes, will be aiding the Michigan Council and helping make sure that they're on the track they should be on as we see it and what we may be able to help with. But it's important to remember there's only 2 states. There's 48 other states that we still have a chance to get wildlife councils in. So that'll be a lot of my work, as well as working with the current councils we have.
So Colorado was the first wildlife council in the country. Michigan wasn't far behind. Do you find that people look at these 2 states as an example of maybe what could be done in others?
Absolutely. You can look at the data that both councils have been able to put together in what they've been able to move the needle, if you will, and we can see a general support of hunting raising. You know, in states like Michigan, even Colorado, even with the immigration that COVID caused in Colorado, where they got a lot more blue in some of their cities, there's still a big hunting fishing culture. Same thing in Michigan. So folks kind of understand and appreciate it, but there's still, as society continues to move the way we're moving, there's going to be an opportunity here to help folks understand how these things are managed, why they're managed, how that, not just hunters are reaping the benefits from the things that we're paying for, the things that we care about. And at the end of the day, we're trying to make sure that ballot initiatives, especially in states where feasible, aren't coming up and doing this. You know, the other thing to talk about are things like the Michigan coyote closure. You know, those are things we're also trying to not let happen. I think if the science can be out in the forefront ahead of those arguments, it's a lot harder to enact those changes for rule makers.
Nick, you're bringing up points that I often talk about here on the show, in that, you know, if you get to the UP or the Northern Lower and you look around, most of the people there get it. They buy into this outdoor lifestyle. They buy into this concept of hunting as a tool. And so in those parts of the state, they question why we even need something like this. They look around and say, well, of course everybody believes this. But that's not the case, is it?
It's not the case at all. And in fact, our Wildlife Council here in Michigan has chosen to target suburban white moms and then a few minority groups in our urban centers. So in Detroit, in Grand Rapids, and that's where the bulk of the spending is really happening. So if you're a hunter in northern Michigan, you're probably not going to see a Here for MI billboard, or you may not see some of these ads, but paying attention to what's happening is important, and then carrying that message forward. But certainly our goal is aimed at the folks who may never be hunters or haven't really had a lot of exposure to hunting or fishing. Those are the folks we really need to change. And frankly, you can hit a lot more in an urban center when you deploy marketing rather than up north somewhere, or, you just have a lot more concentration of folks to hear that message.
Sure. Nick, I want to continue the conversation after the break, but before we do that, where do we find out more about you guys online? What's the source?
Yeah, so it's thenimrodsociety.org. Actually, it's nimrodsociety.org. And I got 4 ducks flying over my head right now. And you can go there. We're in the middle of working on our website right now. So we have a big conference in November we'll be going down to. The website will be redone by then, but folks can certainly go to nimrodsociety.org and kind of sign up for information, learn more about what we're doing.
nimrodsociety.org. All right, Nick, we will take that break. When we come back, I do want to follow up just a little bit, too, about what you've been involved in. You mentioned the ducks going overhead. I've been following you online. You're taking some beautiful pictures, so we'll talk about that. And, of course, more about the Nimrod Society and why we should even care. Why should we even care what people who don't hunt, fish, shoot, or trap think of what we're doing? I'll let Nick answer that question after the break, but I think it's an important question these days. All right, then coming up after that, we'll talk with Adam Bump from the DNR. He wants us to get ready for the fall, for the Michigan pheasant season coming up just around the corner. And this week's Ask Avery question deals with the outbreak of EHD in our state. How bad is it? And can you eat an infected animal? And then looking ahead to hour number 3, veteran outdoorsman and outdoor writer Tom Lounsbury. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. If you are looking for a place to fall perch on Saginaw Bay, fall waterfowl hunt, fall walleye fish, If you're looking for a place to winterize your boat for the upcoming season, that season where you might not be running it, shrink wrap your boat, check out Linwood Beach. Online, they are linwoodbeachmarina.com, linwoodbeachmarina.com. Great people, great facilities, great location. Love the folks at Linwood Beach. So it is getting to be, we're working our way toward the middle of October. I remember when I was a kid, this time of year was so exciting. Small game season had been open for a while. Deer season wasn't open yet, but pheasant season was just around the corner. Again, I grew up on a farm on the west side of the state, and back then there were birds everywhere. It was a big deal. Is it still a big deal today? Adam Bump is with the Michigan DNR to talk more about that. Adam, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. How is pheasant hunting in our great state of Michigan these days, Adam?
Well, it's probably not the same as you remembered when you were a kid, but there's still opportunities out there. So we still have wild birds in places where we have good habitat. You're looking probably more in the thumb and southern tier counties. So they can be a little harder to come by, but some private land still has wild birds. Some state game areas still have wild birds. So if you're looking for that kind of opportunity, it's still there. It's just a little bit harder to find.
So what about the stocking programs? I don't know if that's the correct word, but groups like the Michigan Pheasant Hunting Initiative, groups like that to put birds out there specifically for the purpose of hunting. Is that effective, Adam?
Yeah, we have a program. The state has a program for a $25 license. You have the ability to hunt 13 public land areas for stocked birds. That would be the program that the Pheasant Hunting Initiative promotes. And that gives you access to, this year we're releasing over 7,000 birds on those 13 sites. And it's a good way to try to recall those memories if you're old enough to remember having a lot of birds and easy access to pheasants. It's a good place to work train dogs for new hunters to try out pheasant hunting. We've been trying to improve that program each year as we're able to. So, yeah, we have December hunting in the areas where we have a December season, and then that season opens, like you said, in just a little bit, October 20th. So I would encourage people that are looking for more of I know I'm going to find birds here, and I want to have that kind of experience for pheasant hunting to try those sites out.
That kind of reminds me, when you describe that, of the old put and take program from years ago.
Yeah, it's similar to that. So we do a couple releases a week. There's similar numbers of birds for the acres that are at each one of those 13 sites. And it is essentially a put and take. The birds are released in the evening, so they're there in the mornings. A little more mystery to it, maybe, where you don't know exactly which day releases are occurring. This year, we did add a feature that if you go to the pheasant section of our small game page on the DNR website, we do have links to the parking lots that are closest to those release areas. So in the past, we've kind of expected, we'll tell you what game area that the releases are occurring, but not give you any more details. And this year, we're trying to make sure that as many people as possible can get access to those birds. So if you're looking for a new place, you can go on the website now and get a map that shows you the parking lots.
December season, that's really not experimental anymore, right? That's kind of locked in for the last several years and probably will be. Is that a statewide season, Adam?
No, there's a limited portion of southern Michigan. So it goes up almost to Bay City, roughly, and then over to about Expressway 131. And so the west edge of the state in lower Michigan is not open in December, and then north of that area isn't. So we have, I think it's 3 of our release sites are outside of the December season, and the rest are inside that. So we do releases. And you're right, we started it experimentally. It's probably been more than a decade ago that we opened that season. Yeah.
Well, it's I don't feel, and I'm not an expert, I'm not a biologist, but I don't think we will ever see the days of pheasant hunting like it used to be during the heyday. But man, if we can get a few birds out there and get people out there chasing them around, that's a good thing.
I agree with you. I agree with you on both points. I think, the landscape has changed so dramatically, and I think it's really out of our control to be able to get back to the 1940s and 1950s landscape of southern Michigan.
Yeah.
But this is a great opportunity to get out there and have some hunting opportunities for pheasants that look pretty similar to what you would have seen back then.
Looks like the old days, yeah. Adam Bump from the Michigan DNR, appreciate your time. Thanks for making us aware of that. The website for the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. Pheasant season in the lower starts October 20th. Well, in fact, we'll be talking more about that in our third hour, coming up with a noted outdoor writer and hunter, and especially pheasant hunter, Tom Lounsbury. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this second hour of the show with this week's Ask Avery question right here on Outdoor Magazine.
You know, it's always a pleasure for me to find new businesses to work with, and this time I want to tell you about a company I used to put graphics on my new Silverado. Sign Image in Saginaw did a great job in coming up with a design for my truck, and they did a very professional job of installing the wrap as well. I started out with a hand-sketched idea of what I wanted, and the folks at Sign Image took it from there. The truck looks great, and I'm getting lots of compliments. But Sign Image does more than just wrap vehicles. They're a full-service graphics shop, and they specialize in signs and electronic message centers. In fact, they were voted the best sign company in Michigan 3 years running. To learn more about Sign Image, check out their website. It's signimage1.com. That's signimage1.com. On that website, you can see examples of their work, including a picture of my truck. Again, the website signimage1.com. Are you tired of climbing into the bed of your truck to reach something that slid forward? Well, there's a better way to get your cargo, and it's called the truck trolley. The folks at Truck Trolley have come up with a system to access your gear that's easy to install, removable, inexpensive, and is made right here in Michigan. Truck Trolley is great for hunting and fishing gear, sports equipment, groceries, whatever you carry in the back of your truck. Check out the website trucktrolley.com to learn more. That's trucktrolley.com. If you're going to be outside, you're going to want a good pair of sunglasses, and those glasses can be very expensive. But I found a better option. Michigan-based Odd Side Optics makes great sunglasses at a great price. These things are polarized, provide UV protection, they look good, and they're inexpensive. Go to Amazon.com to search for Odd Side Optics. That's Odd Side Optics on Amazon. You don't need to spend a bunch of money to protect your eyes and look good. Odd Side Optics come in several colors of frames and lenses, so you can find a model perfect for your outdoor passions. That's Odd Side Optics on Amazon.
By now, you've had your fill of political ads. Jay Sporting Goods thinks it's time for some good news, and we can sum it up in one word: Ruger. For 75 years, Ruger has made quality hand and long guns right here in America, and Ruger is now the USA's #1 firearms manufacturer. Oh, but the good news gets better. October 22nd through the 27th, Jay Sporting Goods hosts the Ruger Sales Event. Save 10% off a range of Ruger firearms. And with select purchases, Jay's has a gift for you. Buy a Ruger centerfire rifle, get a bore cleaning rope, and a bench rest shooting bag free while supplies last. With a 10/22, you get free ammo, Ruger swag, and an Allen gun case, sling, shooting protection set, and a cleaning kit. The Ruger Sales Event, October 22nd through the 27th at Jay Sporting Goods in Clare and Galen.
The gear, the knowledge, the tradition of Jay's.
Celebrate fall with Reeder Landscaping. There's still lots of time and plenty of nice weather to enjoy your lawn and property, and the folks at Reeder can help. Reeder Landscape crews can do your fall maintenance. Make plans now to shut down your sprinkler system, and to spruce up your home, check out their fall and holiday containers. They even deliver right to your front door. Every season, every home, every property, Reeder can take care of you because it's your nature and our nurture. Check them out online at reederlandscaping.com.
It's packed. Hope we can find a parking spot.
There's one.
Nice. We make a great team.
Like how hunters and anglers make a great team when it comes to Michigan's conservation efforts.
Absolutely. daily. Anglers reporting on their fishing hauls help keep waters healthy and fish populations balanced.
Well, I've got the tackle box. Let's tackle that lake.
I bet the water's gonna be beautiful, thanks to you-know-who. Learn more at hereformioutdoors.org.
You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us on the other side of the state out in the thumb. Sandusky, WMIC 660 AM 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoors men and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. You know this by now, but the way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can send me a question that you want me to answer directly, or that you want me to reach out to give an expert in a certain area that maybe I have access to that you don't. The best way to get those questions to me is not via social media message. It's to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's what Matt Zimmerman did. He sent me an email. He says, Mike, I've been hearing a lot about whitetails dying from EHD. I work in East Grand Rapids area, and the clients I work with are telling me they found dozens upon dozens of dead deer. Do you know anything about this? Are the animals still safe for human consumption? Well, I also had been hearing about EHD here in Michigan. I'm not a biologist. I'm not an expert, but I know people who are. And this time around, it's Chad Stewart, the big game specialist for the DNR. Chad, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks.
Listen, I appreciate you letting me cut into your day. I gave you this question ahead of time, so this is no surprise, but how bad is this outbreak?
It's pretty bad. I would say that this is our worst outbreak of hemorrhagic disease since 2012. Now, granted, I don't think it's on the same scale as what we had in 2012. I mean, we had well over 20 and I think close to 30 counties reporting hemorrhagic disease in 2012. But it is bad, mostly affecting the counties south and west of Grand Rapids area, although those margins are probably expanded. I'm sure people north and to the east are experiencing some EHD losses as well. We've got well over 2,000 reports from our centralized Eyes in the Field reporting program. So, you know, you've got easily thousands of deer that are dying from this. And in some areas, it's very intensive locally. I would not be surprised if some folks are losing over 50%, maybe upwards of 80% of their deer locally.
Wow. Caused by a midge in unusually dry conditions. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's generally accurate. It's a biting fly called a midge. It's often referred to those no-see-ums on your insect repellents, but they transmit a virus, and this is we've identified 2 different strains in Michigan of EHD this year. More testing is being done. Fortunately, it is only from the midge vector to the deer. So it's not transmitted between deer. And then once a hard frost occurs, that generally kills those midges and shuts down transmission.
So we should be seeing the end of that here real soon.
Exactly. Yeah, we actually had some frost in parts of southern Michigan this morning. So I'm optimistic that killed some things, some midges, and start slowing down this process. But it's been going on for a couple months in certain areas, so there's going to be some really difficult hunting, certainly this year, and it may extend into next year.
So is it always fatal to the deer? And if not, if somebody shoots a deer that has EHD and it isn't obvious, are they safe to eat?
It is not always fatal. I would say it's usually or mostly fatal, but deer can recover from it. And if you shoot a deer that had EHD, it is safe to eat. There's no human health concern associated with EHD. There's no concern about pets getting into a carcass or meat, anything. So that's okay. One interesting thing about EHD is it shuts down some of the growth processes. So hunters hunting in that southwest area, if you shoot a deer this year, particularly as you get into November and certainly the firearm season, check your hooves. And if you see this growth interruption on all 4 hooves, kind of like a ridge, it's generally a good indicator that deer had EHD through the fall and survived. But again, the meat is completely safe to eat.
Wow. And we find them near water usually. Why is that?
Well, just like any deer that gets injured, or they tend to go to water
gotcha.
to cool down, to get comfort. A lot of times if you shoot a deer with an arrow or a crossbow bolt, a lot of times it's trailing right to water because that's just the deer's natural tendency to go. Same thing with EHD. They're not feeling well. They go into water, and ultimately, if they die, that's where it happens.
Chad Stewart, always appreciate your insight. Let's hope the cold weather puts an end to this. I appreciate your time. We'll let you get on with your day.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.
Chad Stewart of the DNR answering this week's Ask Avery question. Again, a big thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making those questions possible. And thank you, Matt Zimmerman, for sending in that question. Matt sent it to me via email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. If you have a question for the Ask Avery segment, again, something that you want me to answer directly, or, as in this case, pass it along to somebody who actually knows something, send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. We'll see if we can't get them answered. I'm waiting on a couple of questions regarding some legal issues, too, and hopefully we'll have those answered by next week. If you sent those to me, I'm not forgetting you. I just don't have an answer yet. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. Hour 3 coming up with Tom Lounsbury and Dixie Dave right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we continue to celebrate this outdoor lifestyle, this history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. And for many of us, this is the absolute best time of year. Yeah, I love chasing my Saginaw Bay summertime walleye. I love it. I love springtime turkey season, but there's something about the fall, right? I mean, I just wrapped up my first successful Michigan bear hunt. Trying to take a nice Michigan doe now, and looking forward to doing some fall casting for walleye in the rivers and harbors and such. So that's just what I have on my agenda. Now, my agenda is going to vary from season to season and year to year. If you would have asked me when I was a kid what I'd be doing this time of year, well, I'd be just wrapping up. Well, not wrapping up. I'd be right in the heart of squirrel season, and I would be looking forward to the fall pheasant season. Man, it's hard to realize what pheasant hunting used to be like in Michigan if you're, younger, because you haven't seen it. It was amazing, and I didn't even see the heyday. I'm not old enough to have really seen the heyday of pheasant hunting in Michigan, but I did see enough of it growing up on the farm on the west side of the state in northern Kent County to know that it was pretty special. Now, there are groups trying to restore that sense of pheasant hunting in Michigan. It'll never be like it was, but, well, I don't know. You know what? in some parts of the state, in some small pockets of cover, on some people's farms who have worked for years to keep their habitat up and to keep their pheasant numbers up. It has worked. Tom Lounsbury is one of those guys. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Rambo, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Mike, and I'm looking forward to October 20th. I'm in the countdown mode.
I figured you would be. And listen, we'll talk about that in a minute. That'll be the gist of our conversation. But how is your fall going so far? Did you bear hunt this year, Tom?
No, I just bought points. I had bear hunted last year, and so I'm still counting my points. I'm planning on probably going to Canada in the near future, but I do want to make sure I give one, big hurrah on Michigan bear hunting, because there's nothing quite like being bear hunting in Michigan, in my opinion.
Well, I actually, after 4 seasons of unsuccessfully attempting to get my first Michigan bear, I got him about a week and a half ago.
Oh, my, good for you, crossbow.
No. I did something I've never done before. I took a bear with a gun. I took my Brenton 350 Legend, and I've got a suppressor on the end of it, and I wanted to see what that would do to a bear, and it just somehow seemed appropriate to take my first Michigan bear with a Michigan-made gun.
Hey, there you go.
And I'll tell you what,
great guns.
Well, it was quite impressive, Tom. I mean, I've taken probably 15, 16 bears with a bow. I've never taken one with a gun before. Very effective, quick, clean, humane experience.
Hey, that 350 Legend, it's become quite popular, I'll tell you. Now, what bullet were you using?
I used a 180 grain Winchester, and here's an interesting thing, too. When I first took it into the range to sight it in with a new scope and with that suppressor on it, I was trying to shoot a Federal bullet because I've had a lot of luck with Federal in the past. The gun didn't like that Federal bullet, and it jammed. And they said, well, what else have you got? Try the Winchester. I said, well, I got a whole bunch of boxes of Winchester. Try those. And they cycled beautifully. So that's what I ended up with. And, man, I'll tell you now, given what that did to a bear, I can't wait during the gun season to try it out with a deer. And I'll stick with that 180 grain Winchester.
Oh, boy, that is a good bullet. I've tested that out. It's really good and does a marvelous job. I've also used the Hornady 165, but that 180 Winchester, I mean, I like that heavier weight. It just carries right on through.
Yeah, it was a fun experience, and I really did enjoy it. And like you, now next year I will go back to Ontario, where you can buy a tag over the counter. You've hunted Ontario before, haven't you, Tom?
Oh yeah, that's my favorite province to go visit for bear. I just love it. There's a couple places I'd like to head for, and I found out, you go through a guide. They've been baiting the bears. They know where they're at. That's the best way to do it.
Hey, listen, as long as I've got you, I don't want to get too far off topic, but you bring this baiting up. I posted my bear hunt online, and unlike you, I haven't gotten smart enough to quit doing that because it's part of my job, right? I have to. But Tom, I'm telling you, it brought not only the antis out of the woodwork, which I expected, but the very, very disappointing thing was it brought fellow hunters out of the woodwork, chastising me and berating me and belittling me for taking a bear over bait. They said, Avery, if you were a real hunter, you'd never take an animal over bait.
It sounds to me like they've never hunted bear in the territory you find bear. I'll tell you right now, they do spot and stalk out west in more open country, but you get into bear country in northern Michigan and the UP and then Canada. In fact, I'm always glad when I come out of that woods at night that I got Glow-Tax to follow or something, because it is a literal maze. And a lot of time, the only area you have to shoot a bear in is a little clearing where the bait. And those people have no idea what they're talking about. You could take my word on that.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I just think today that we as hunters need to support other hunters with any legal tactic they're using. Even if we don't agree with it or choose not to use it, I don't care if it's bait or if it's hounds or whatever. If somebody's hunting legally, God bless you.
And then you get into the archery world. There's the traditionalists that think compounds aren't really bows, and then you got the archery, those that are using conventional bows and compounds think the crossbow is it's sent in from the devil or something. Yet where it's ethical, it's legal, and so people got to quit. They're welcome to their opinion, but to chastise someone or degrade how they hunt is totally ridiculous and uncalled for.
I jokingly, in the first hour of the show, called my crossbow Satan's weapon. And so I laugh when you kind of referred to it the same way. I'll be honest with you, Tom. I obviously it is easier to be proficient and accurate with a crossbow, but my effective range with that crossbow is no farther than it was with my compound when I was shooting my compound a lot. And I'm talking effective range like 40 yards. I'm not going to take a shot beyond 40 yards.
Nope. And I could, the deer I've taken, with my crossbow, like you, I could have done with my compound. I had a shorter, I went for a long time with just a long bow and recurves, and then my shoulder started acting up, and I could shoot a compound because of the let-off factor. And when I went to sights instead of instinctive shooting, oh my goodness, did that increase the accuracy and range? And the first buck I took with that compound, I was using a Darton Pro 3000. This was 2007. And I nailed a dandy buck at 39 yards and knew I could do it. And I have I think my longest kill shot with a crossbow was probably around 41 yards, just at the 40-yard mark. But I could have done the same thing with that compound.
Yeah.
But with a crossbow, what really helped me with that long shot was I was using a shooting stick. And I was locked on, I was ready. And there's been a couple times I like calling in deer, and it happens quick. And I got this real dandy buck one time. It is right at break of daylight. He materialized just like magic in front of me. And if I had to draw a bow back at 18 yards, I would not have gotten that deer, but I was cocked and locked.
Yeah.
And anyway, I put him right down, and that crossbow did a good job. No, they really, I just love them. And my shoulder has gotten worse. I need them, so.
Well, that's what people say. Well, yeah, but that's what people say. Oh, yeah, well, kids and old people and handicappers, you guys can go ahead and use your crossbows, but a young, healthy guy, he shouldn't. That's a sign of weakness. Baloney.
Oh, yeah.
Baloney.
I had one bow hunter tell me that was so upset with crossbows. He says, you know what? A 5-year-old can now kill a deer. And I went, well, what's wrong with that? He looked like he was gut shot.
What's wrong with that? Nothing. Hang tight, Tom. We're talking with Tom Lounsbury here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We've got to take a break. I always enjoy my conversations with Tom because this guy is a wealth of knowledge. He is a wealth of information. He's a veteran outdoor writer, a longtime outdoor writer. In my opinion, he is a gun expert. Oh, no, he's a gun expert. He is a hunting expert. And I want to talk more after the break with him about his tactics and techniques for hunting whitetails in the tall grass, because none of us do that. And then we'll turn our attention to the topic of the day of the upcoming pheasant hunting season. That and more with Tom Lounsbury. Then, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. And I think he's doing one more bear recipe. But we'll find out coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. It's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. There's still time, right? I mean, it's getting colder, it's getting beautiful, but there's still going to be a lot of nice weather to enjoy your lawn and property. Let Reader help you out, whether it is fall trimming, fall maintenance, blowing out your sprinkler system. What about lights? What about holiday lights? What about holiday containers? Anything around your lawn, anything around your property, Reader can do it for you. Now, listen, you could do it yourself. Maybe, in some cases, you could. But here's the way I look at it. For every hour that a Reader crew is at my house doing a top-notch job, being very conscientious to do it the way that they would want it done at their house, for every hour they're at my house, that's another hour I can spend out in the woods. So I take full advantage of Reader's services, believe me. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. We're talking right now with the longtime outdoor writer, lifelong hunter, Tom Lounsbury. Tom, can we talk just a couple of minutes about your style of hunting in the tall grass? Because this is something kind of unique. I've never heard anybody really talk about this before other than you.
Well, it was a learning experience. I really love the woods and that, but it was a learning experience. And I'll tell you, my grass this year, some of it is 8 feet tall. It's dense, and I've known when I've gone through it, when I've been pheasant hunting and that there's a tremendous amount of beds around there. The deer love it. A lot of people are putting in trees to attract deer and everything. I found out you put in warm season prairie grasses, getting deer to hold in there happens a lot quicker. And I've learned that what I like to do is I have the field surrounded with conifer shelter belts. And anyway, I look for scrape lines and stuff like that. I'll start watching that. Actually, right now, the bucks are making scrapes and everything. And then I use deer vocalizations, to draw deer out. And especially during the rut period. Halloween. I live for Halloween. I drop everything, and it's bow hunting for whitetails during Halloween. It's a magic period. But the grass, there have been times I've done drives through the grass and have people at key locations, and then you have people walk through, and you can do that too. It can be very effective. So I've used that technique. But basically, I'll have like a Lucky's hunting blind or something, or a ladder stand at a key location where I can see down the edges of the prairie grass. And key times for this, they love to use it for bedding and everything, and catch them at first light, or just as in the evening. Those are key locations to watch. I got like mowed fire trail break around the field, and I got my favorite spot is in a blind where I can see down to the east and straight to the north, and it's waiting for the deer to come out. But to actually walk in by your lonesome to try to kick up a deer, first of all, he only has to make one leap and he's out of sight in that kind of cover. But it's very challenging. I enjoy it. My 15-year-old grandson took a monster buck near my prairie grass during the Liberty hunt using a 450 Bushmaster, and anyway, he was excited. It was a real big 12-point. In fact, all the years I've been hunting, he outdid me.
And you love it, don't you?
And I love it.
That grass, I mean, you talk about a deer drive. Now, that's a term I never hear or see of people doing deer drives anymore.
Oh, the old-fashioned deer drive, especially when deer are getting nocturnal, oh, my, that's a way to kick them loose. And that's when you'll see some bucks that you never knew were around, too. And, deer drive, that's one of my favorite passions every year is to do I call it a good old-fashioned deer drive.
But don't you use a similar tactic for pheasant hunting, too?
Oh, yeah. When just like a deer drive, when you're hunting today's wild roosters, and I firmly believe we've genetically engineered them, they do not cackle when you flush them anymore. They run rather than fly. And the minute they know a melee is taking place, they're going to be heading for the exits. And that's where I use blockers. That'd be like a stander during a deer drive. And blocking is a good position to be in, and you have the hunters moving in with the dogs and that. And I like to use both flushing and pointing dog breeds because of today's wild rooster. And if a pointing dog locks up, that rooster may not be there, and that's where flushing dogs pay a good deal. I'll never forget. One of my best flushing dogs was a beagle. And,
beagle.
I had a beagle. And anyway, this bird hunter there that raised pointing dogs, he said to me, "Does he support a point?" And I said, "Not for long." and he put up a lot of roosters. While the other dog's on a point, that rooster might be 20 feet away. So anyway, that's one of the systems I use for that. So
how is? Well, let me back up. You still have birds, but you've worked very hard for that to be the case.
Yes. If they got the cover, they respond. And the genetics I'm hunting here were what were originally brought to Michigan back in 1917. And what I have now are the survivors. There's the descendants of survivors, and oh man, they are really unique. I get a kick out of them. They hear a noise. You every now and then you can see it. You'll see like a rooster head, a dark head, poke out of the grass, and he's not standing on his feet. He's doing a hover up to see where's that. They got color perception just like a wild turkey, and I love hunter orange. It's necessary, but it saves a lot of roosters' lives because you can hover up and they're over there, and I always want blockers in a position where the rooster, when he's vacating out, he's like, there he is, too late. So it's just techniques I've learned over the years.
Do you ever see any birds that look like they're remnants of the Sichuan stalking attempt?
That's in the bloodlines because I saw them around here. And the birds they were releasing here were actually half ringneck. And I never saw it do what they were claiming it would do. It would live in a middle ground between the pheasant and the ruffed grouse, and actually I don't think that middle ground exists because the pheasants I saw were acting like pheasants. And I have noticed a difference in the color after that shish. And I welcome those wild genetics from China.
Sure.
I had no problem with that at all. But I've noticed it used to be roosters had ebony toenails, and anyway, I'm starting to see ivory. Also, the Sichuan, I think, is related to the Japanese green pheasant in a way because I see roosters now where you got powder blue used to. It's emerald green and green sheen to the birds. So there is a Sichuan influence. And the pheasants that they originally released in 1970 were mongrels to begin with, a whole bunch of mixed races. And anyway, it's a great combination. I call it ringneck. They're not a Chinese. They're part Chinese, but I call it a ringneck. And pheasant hunting's still alive if you got the cover.
That's what it comes down to, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, grasslands. There's been a move in Michigan to put all these trees in and everything else. And of course, I was young enough. I remember when schools were closed for pheasant season, and then I saw where there was dramatic changes to farming and herbicides and insecticides that came in. And this all had an impact on wild pheasant numbers. And I can remember when pheasant numbers dropped, it used to be a boon to local businesses, pheasant season, all the hunters coming to visit.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, without the pheasants, there weren't the hunters. And then schools, I had to play hooky. If October happened on a school day, I was playing hooky. I never gave up on it.
So how much land do you need to be able to make a difference? Like you've got a couple 100 acres there, don't you?
I got 167, but I got 100 acres into this CRP program, and anyway,
if you had 20 acres, and it was the right 20 acres, you could still have some fun, right?
Absolutely. When birds were were really down, I would find them in small pockets of cover. You wouldn't believe that pheasants were there. They have a way of really adapting, and 20 acres would definitely work. I recommend putting in some warm season grasses, and it's also going to work for deer, as I mentioned. And you can if you make it, they will come.
You keep going back to those grasses, don't you?
Oh yeah, I love my grasslands. I've been working hard on this for 20-some years, and just love every minute of it. I like being able to walk out my door and go hunting. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and how many years has your family been on that farm now?
I'm fourth generation. My great-grandfather bought the land in 1883, my great-grandfather.
That is a
so I'm
special...
fourth generation to have the farm.
You have a special piece of heaven there, my friend.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Well, you have a great season. I always enjoy your stories. I always enjoy listening to you, and you and I will talk again soon, I promise.
Hey, I look forward to it, and congratulations on that bear with a 350. What do you think of suppressors?
I am sold on suppressors because my hearing is shot because of too much shooting without suppressors when I was young and dumb. It's still a little louder than what I had expected, but I understand if I play around with the subsonic ammo, I can quiet that down a little bit. I just got such good performance out of that bullet. I hate to change that, because it works so well.
That Winchester 180 it's an outstanding performer. I've used it myself.
Yeah. All right, my friend, good talking to you, and we'll talk again.
Always, Mike, always an honor.
Well, the honor is mine. Tom Lounsbury, a man who has been around the outdoor scene here in Michigan for many, many years, very well respected. Everybody who knows him likes him because he's just such a great guy. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, a few more points before we wrap up this week's show with another great guy, wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up yet here this week on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM 790 AM 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now here with Charlie Rude. Charlie. They're out there. It's a nice day. It's kind of chilly, right? But it's a beautiful fall day, and the crowds are out there chanting for Charlie. Charlie, they appreciate you, and so do I. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Garber Chevrolet. My friends at Garber Chevy. I have gotten my last several vehicles from Garber Chevy. I drive a lot of miles, right? So, and I lease my vehicles, which I don't know, may have to come to an end here soon. If I keep putting these miles on them, I may have to do something else. But it will be with the Garber Chevy dealers. I love these folks. They are great people to deal with. Service is wonderful. Selection of vehicles is great. Check them out in Linwood at Garber Chevy Linwood, Garber Chevy Midland, Garber Chevy Saginaw, or Garber Chevy Chesaning as well. Look at trucks, vehicles are not inexpensive these days. You're going to spend some money. So why not deal with people who have your best interest at heart, who will take care of your vehicle after the sale? And for me, that's the folks at Garber Chevy. Looking back at the rundown this week. Oh, Tom Lounsbury. I always love talking to Tom. The guy, he's one of those guys where if we got off topic, we could easily fill an entire hour, if not more. He's just a really, really interesting guy. Going back to the topics here this week. Oh, the Angler Quest. I'm finally going to get the Angler Quest out of the water, out of the slip. She's been there for a while waiting for me. She's like, my friend, where have you been? I'm waiting for you. Well, we're gonna get her out of the water, get her ready for this a cold winter season coming up. People say you're going to miss some great fall fishing. Well, yes and no. If I want to go fishing this fall, I have a lot of friends who can take me, but I'm also really planning seriously on experimenting more with casting for walleye, nighttime casting for walleye this year. I live in a part of the state where I have access to some pretty good water, and I actually think that I can go right into the marina where I keep my boat in the summertime and try to catch some fish in there, if not at least the canal going into the marina. So going to try that a little bit. I have been bow hunting. I haven't had a shot at an animal yet, but I think it's going to come. I really want to shoot a big doe, a nice doe. Have no illusions about shooting a big buck. If one walks in front of me, of course I would take advantage of that opportunity, but I just don't see it happening. I have succumbed or bought into a little bit into the world of modern day deer hunting, in that we are fortunate that we have some property we have access to that me and my son James and grandkids have leased. I know everybody doesn't have that opportunity, so I feel blessed to be able to do that. So it is private property. We being my son James, were able to put in some food plots, so we have that working for us. I really don't think, from what I've seen in my somewhat limited experience, food plots are okay, but they're not great. I honestly think if we were able to bait, regardless of what you think of baiting or not, if we were able to bait, I am quite sure that would bring more deer into the property than food plots are able to. And we have been using trail cameras, cellular trail cameras, so we're keeping an eye on the deer herd that way. Are these unfair advantages? I don't know. But they are legal, so we want to take advantage of them. And that's why I say, based on what we've seen on trail cameras and with our eye as we're hunting, there's a fair number of does, and actually they are coming into those food plots a little bit better this year than past years. I'm not quite sure why. But and some small bucks. We're seeing a lot of small bucks running around there. By small, I mean 1.5-year-old bucks. Small is a relative term, right? At this point in my life, I am probably not going to knowingly or intentionally shoot a 1.5-year-old buck. But I don't care if somebody else does. I'm serious about this. If a 4-point walks in front of you and it gets you excited and you say, I'm going to shoot him and take him home and feed my family, you have my complete support. I am behind you 100%, and I applaud you for your efforts, and I celebrate your harvest, and I celebrate your experience. It's a very individual experience, right? It's a very personal experience. I would take more joy at this point in taking a big doe than I would a smaller buck. But that's just me. A big old matriarchal doe is a pretty tough target because she's pretty dialed in. She knows everything that's going on within about a half mile, I swear. So that's what my goal is. I want to shoot a nice doe off that property, and we'll see. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I've still got the experience of being out there, right? I have lost much of my passion for deer hunting only because I let myself be drawn into the crap that surrounds it. As I am more and more successful at tuning that out, at getting back to the basics of why we're there, to manage the deer herd, to tap back into the family history of being deer hunters, some of that joy is coming back. I don't think I'll ever have the passion that I used to, and that's okay. Those things ebb and flow throughout your life. But, right now my interest is coming back. And I'll take it. We will take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, and I think he has one more bear recipe. Then we'll probably switch over to venison. But hey, that's Dave's call, not mine. Yes, indeed, it's that time. Time to wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Now, I said in the previous segment that I think we were going to do one more bear recipe, then transition into venison. Well, Dave kind of is a step ahead of me, as he almost always is, because he's got a recipe that could be used for either bear or venison, but I will let him give you the details. David, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
Very good, Michael. And yourself?
I am doing very well, and I like this recipe you've got here because I like the versatility of it.
Oh, you could use about any kind of big game meat, whether it be pronghorn antelope or venison or bear or moose, whatever, caribou.
Well, what is it?
Well, it's we're going to use bear this time, so it's on page 126. And in honor of the bear that you got, I was going to do the bear recipe because he took it off of the meatloaf for venison. You need about 2 pounds of ground venison or other big game meat, a medium to large onion, depending on how much your family likes onion, diced up quite fine, 3, 4, 5 cloves of garlic, whatever you prefer, depending on, again, how much garlic your family or your diners would require. 6 to 8 strips of bacon. Get a nice smoky bacon instead of a maple bacon. So 4 to 5 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, more or less to your taste. You know, you're going to, after you mix this all up, you're going to taste it and microwave a little bit. You need a couple of cups of dry breadcrumbs, 3 to 4 beaten up eggs. And you can use a teaspoon of mixed basil or oregano or Italian spice. It's up to you, whatever you prefer. And a beer, can of beer or a bottle of beer, salt and pepper to taste, black pepper, of course, and ketchup. So the beer is going to be used to moisten up the meatloaf, and plus it gives it a heck of a great flavor. So in a large mixing bowl, break up the meat and add the onion, the garlic, the spices, and mix it up a little bit. Kind of blend that up a little. And then add the breadcrumbs, the eggs, the Worcestershire sauce. And if it's, put a little bit of beer in it, not too much, because you might not have enough breadcrumbs to tighten it up. If it's too dry, then you can add some more beer, and if you get it too moist, you can always put a little bit more breadcrumbs in it and mix it up. Now, when the mixture is just right for your consistency that you're looking for, microwave a little bit, like a teaspoon or so, taste it, and see if this is the time to adjust any seasonings if you like. Now would be the time before you get ready to make it, form it into a loaf. Form it into a loaf, you know, and you can either put it in like a bread pan or something. Some people would do that, or you can just form it real nice. Take the bacon and make crisscross along the top, and then run a line of ketchup, maybe an inch or so wide down the top. And then in the pan, if you're going to do it without a loaf pan, you can add a little bit of water and some beer. Now, be careful. Beer foams up, so you don't want to put too much beer. And you want to wrap it with foil, bake it at 350 degrees for about an hour and a half or so, maybe an hour and a quarter. Uncover it the last 15 minutes, and then I'll help it brown up a little bit and give it a little more eye appeal. And then you can make a brown gravy or open up a jar of brown gravy or some kind of a tomato sauce. People like tomato sauce on meatloaf, too. So, and it's a killer way to use your ground meat, wherever you come from. And it's a great recipe.
Well, you had me when you said bacon. I was like, okay, a bear burger and bacon, I'm in.
We used to sell this at the restaurant with venison a lot.
Dave, I noticed you said to you that you use the microwave for one step in this. What role does a microwave play in cooking up a wild game dinner or any dinner? Could you make the whole meal in a microwave, or is it just something to warm things up on the side or whatever?
To me, I use it to warm things up on the side. I'm not too keen on what microwaving does to food.
I gotcha. Does a gas stove or electric make a difference? Does that change anything at all?
Not really. Doesn't change anything. It's just a preference. A lot of people would prefer the gas stove. We do, but most ovens a lot of times are electric. Yeah. You know, especially if you have a newer one that's convection. and a lot of them are electric ovens with gas stovetop.
And hey, listen, it's just a tool, right? It's however you use it, just like everything else.
Exactly, right. Whether it's your nuts or whatever.
Gotcha. All right, David, always a pleasure. I appreciate you helping us wrap up each week's show, and I'll look forward to next week's recipe.
We're going to do venison starting for the next month or two, right?
Perfect. Well, let's not get too locked into it. Let's do venison for next week, but don't forget we still got people out there fishing. We've still got, waterfall seasons. Why don't you mix it up a little bit and just surprise me?
Okay. All right, no problem. I'll let you know whatever recipe we're going to do in advance and go from there.
Perfect, David. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time and appreciate your friendship. That's Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a great guy and a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. Because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do this show. My name is Mike Avery, and this show is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. There's a podcast version of it. I also have a website. It's called MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm fairly active on social media, and I try to keep it from being anti-social media. And my email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Love to hear from you, mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.